نريد جيلا غاضبا، نريد جيلا يفلح الآفاق وينكش التاريخ من جذوره وينكش الفكر من الأعماق. نريد جيلا قادما مختلف الملامح، لا يغفر الأخطاء لا يسامح، لا يعرف النفاق ولا ينحني. نريد جيلا رائدا عملاق. السلام عليكم. My name is Bashar Iraqi, as Lindsay said. I'm an Arab Palestinian and I'm a citizen of Israel. This poem was written by an Arab Lebanese poet. His name is Nizar Kabbani. In it, he describes the kind of generation the Arab nation needs in order for them to raise up from the dust to an era of freedom and many hopes. During the second Intifada, a year before, I was 15 years old, born and raised in a city called Tira, right there on the green line that separates the West Bank from the rest of the Holy Land. Growing up in a normal family that doesn't talk much politics or religion, a loving, beautiful mom, perfect cook, and a great father that worked as a carpenter, an artist, that his clients mostly came from the Jewish sector in Israel. Throughout helping my father, I succeeded to enter some Jewish homes and meet the first Jew in my life. Right then, different thoughts came to my mind about identity, differences, humanity, earth. 4 years ago, what's so-called the Arab Spring came out to life. But that wasn't the only big thing that happened in life. 4 years ago, I have started what's so-called today Darna. Dar in Arabic means home. Home is the place where you feel loved, cared about, supported, where you can actually do what you want and not be afraid that you'll be judged. The idea was to create a safe space for Palestinians, citizens of Israel, in order for them to dream, aspire, take responsibility, and implement. Now, I'm sure you want to hear more about this beautiful idea. Look at the nice place we have. But before we do that, let's go back to how I was brave enough to take a decision that I want to argue with my people, Arabs, and not lose the argument. On the year 1999, I have joined an American program called Seeds of Peace. Seeds of Peace is an American organization that meets between kids coming from countries in conflict. I flew to the States. That was the first time I fly anywhere. And I flew part of the Israeli delegation. At camp, Seeds of Peace starts as a summer camp in the beautiful nature of Maine, surrounded by chipmunks, a lot of trees, a beautiful lake. That is definitely not a view that I see where I come from, not in Tira. And over there you bring the package of hatred, racism, differences, questions that you carried from all the way back home to the group discussion that meets between kids from Jordan, Egypt, Palestine, Israel. There you are asked to open and share. You came to defend your side and to defend your country. And you end up listening to the other side. And if you're brave enough, you even make few friendships. And it works. For a 15-year-old boy, I had too much going on in my life. Unlike my friends who wanted to go play soccer or travel, I've always dreamed about how to become a leader, how to be brave enough when I stayed on a stage like this and talk to the audience and convince them with things that I believe in. So I chose another choice, to be part of a political party represented at the Knesset today, named the Democratic National Assembly, that promotes Palestinian agenda and a Palestinian identity inside the minority of Palestinians inside of Israel. So by joining the political party and being active in their youth movement, I have created two crazy worlds for myself. One world that works so hard to empower my Palestinian identity, as you see, and at the same time a world that taught me how to be a Palestinian. These two worlds hardly meet. They even crash sometimes to bring more questions. I remember I was taking part of a lot of demonstrations in my life against oppression, racism, and discrimination done to my people by the state that I live at. And I remember that I knew who is the enemy. It's that guy that holds a gun and points it at me. And it's that system that occupies my life and limits my freedom. I knew that the enemy is targeting me. On October the 2nd, the year 2000, the Second Intifada broke out. The wave of violence, demonstrations, and clashes moved from the West Bank, entering the Arab towns in Israel, as a normal reaction to the normal connection between Palestinians in Israel and Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza. We went to the streets to demonstrate against the siege, the brutality, and the occupation. And that wasn't the first time that Arab citizens of Israel clash with the police, and it wasn't the first time that the Israeli police shoots dead Arab citizens of Israel. The only difference this time that I have lost a friend. A friend of mine was shot, along with another 12 citizens, Arab citizens. His name was Asil Asli. Asil Asli was one of the most smartest kids I ever met in my life, full with life and joy. And he always actually believed that this conflict will reach an end one day and that we will get the chance to live all together in harmony. He even always quoted, "Out beyond the ideas of right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." Quoted by Rumi. He was shot while he was wearing his Seeds of Peace shirt, peacefully demonstrating against something that he believed that needs to be changed. His killer, an Israeli policeman, was never convicted and he was never sentenced. Now imagine these two worlds. A week after the craziness and the madness that happened in the streets of Arab towns in Israel, Seeds of Peace took a brave decision and decided to meet between Arabs and Jews. And over there we came to process all this pain, the tragedy. Asil wasn't a friend of one person. He succeeded to make relationships and friendships with different people. Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Palestinian, Israeli, Jordanian, Egyptian. He was global. And there I had the chance to listen to Jewish Israelis talking about how it feels when they join the army. How is it when they fight for the country that we live at, I protest against, and they fight for. And it's not easy. It wasn't easy, and it will never be easy. In these times, I go back and I remember people that influenced my life. The quote in front of you was said by the great Arab nationalist Jamal Abdel Nasser. He prays and he says, اللهم اعطنا القوة لندرك أن الخائفين لا يصنعون الحرية والضعفاء لا يخلقون الكرامة والمترددين لن تقوى أيديهم المرتعشة على البناء. I needed this. I needed the strength I can get to move on. Not to forget, but to move on. Losing a friend is something that needs to be dealt with. A few years after, I received a scholarship to go study in New York. It took me 2 seconds to take the decision. I am getting out of here. I'm going to New York City, leaving Tira, and let's see what happens. I remember the first weeks being in New York City that I could actually walk and breathe without feeling that my identity is threatening anyone. I could walk and feel that I'm part of something. I felt kind of freedom. And I'm not saying that America has overcome racism or discrimination, but these guys have been dealing with it for so long, they have reached some kind of combina. They have created a bigger space for people to be different. And actually they succeeded. I felt that I belong. In the States, I didn't stop being politically active. I organized panels talking about Palestine, talking about Israel, Judaism, Islam, the conflict. I even took part of rallies that went against the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. And that wasn't the only thing. I even met Arabs, different Arabs, from Syria and Lebanon. Places that only meant disconnection and that the country that I hold its passport is with war with. Trust me, believe me, it's a shame we don't have peace in the Middle East. There are so many beautiful people you need to meet. But I couldn't stay there forever. America has issues with visas. I had to come back home. I came back home with full energy, excited. I took different jobs, but I kept thinking I want to be the leader. I was trained to be one. I have a vision. I have a huge experience. And I can talk and speak fluently in 3 languages. I want to change something, but what is it that I want to change? That is the question. I do want to defeat racism and discrimination. I do want to see my people doing better, but how am I going to do this? I'm one, coming from a minority. After a lot of thinking, I was brave enough, as I said, to do the argument with my people. And I gathered 7 young men and women, high school students, to start Darna. 1 little donation. I was hesitant. What could I do with a few hundred shekels? I can hardly feed these 7 people. So I decided to take them on a trip to the occupied Golan Heights, to do group building, to speak about Darna, to speak about the vision, to speak about the responsibility, about the history, about the future, about the present, about the society, about the need of becoming leaders, about the need to be responsible and polite, and to be active, an advocate of your cause. We succeeded. We returned back home safe, hungry, and excited. The group slowly grew to be bigger. More people joined in. Curious young men and women that love the idea that they can have a safe space to come, sit, and talk, not being forced to say anything they don't want, not being forced to identify by any means the way I want them to be. They have the freedom to choose. They have the opportunity. So I start using the connections, the few connections that I have in Tira. I wanted the city to notice me, to know that I exist, and I have a big dream that can get everyone's dream come true. I wanted to empower people, and at the same time, I believe strongly that empowering people is resistance. This is how I can resist discrimination, occupation, even mistakes, and the dirty laundry that my society hides. The project grew up, and today, Darna is part of every school in the city. Darna is connected to children, to kids, to homes, to families. We cover a huge range of activities to empower the leaders of tomorrow, to empower the kids that will lead the generation that we need to raise up from the dust against all the odds. If the government is against us and the system is against us, this is time to fight back racism, to fight back the poor health system in Arab towns, the poor infrastructure in Arab towns. This is time to fight back against the high crime rate and to take responsibility about our mistakes. And people just fall in love with the idea because they have the opportunity to do it, and they have the support to do it, and they have the family that will support them. They walk into the center, watching open doors, and knowing that they will have the support to open more doors. Today, I know that the people I work with know that they can resist what they don't like peacefully, away from bloodshed. I know they know that hate isn't a solution for everything, but I know that they created a healthy Palestinian that has dreams, has hopes, and has a lot of strength to make them come true. I always wonder with them, what is Palestine, or is it being a Palestinian? How humanity connects to this cause and this identity. What are we going to do with our cousins, the Jews who live with us? Well, we live here, and that's not a choice. Darna today runs one of the best scout groups, trained by counselors that we trained. Darna makes sure that we have a monthly trip to one site in the Holy Land to know, to connect, and then to process all what we see. Darna made sure to have a space for women, Arab women, to raise their voices, to express their needs, to tell us that they are part of this fight against everything. Darna gets sometimes lucky enough and we get scholarship for students, to guide them to go to higher education. Being a minority, I'm not ashamed of that. I'd rather be a minority that respects itself than a majority that doesn't exist in my life. Darna today has 2 beautiful centers in Tira. We're hiring 8 staff members. We have over 200 graduates yearly with different programs and activities we do. Now, the message is not just about being Palestinian or fighting for a better life. The message is about that if I did it, and trust me, in Tira, it's way harder than anywhere else. Everyone else here can join us to be an agent of change. Thank you. Thank you.